how Cynthia and Garchomp traumatized a whole generation of players. Today we're talking about a name that still sends shivers down the spines of millions. Cynthia. Specifically how Cynthia and her Garchomp didn't just beat us in battle, they traumatized an entire generation of players. The collective memory of that final battle in the Sinnoh region, whether it was in the original Diamond, Pearl, Platinum, or the more recent Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl remakes, is etched into the very soul. It wasn't just a tough fight, it was an emotional roller coaster, a trial by fire that left us questioning everything we thought we knew about being the Pokémon champion. I still remember my first time. My team meticulously trained felt ready. I had my starter Infernape, my trusty Ice-type Mamoswine, my flying ace Staraptor. I was confident, cocky even. Then the music hit. That music. You know the one. The one that starts with a calm, almost serene melody, and slowly builds into a heart-pounding, epic boss music which screams, "You are not ready for this." And then, Spirit Tomb, followed by a cascade of absolute nightmares. My meticulously planned strategies crumbled. My Pokémon fainted one by one, and by the time Garchomp came out, I wasn't battling. I was just trying to survive. My poor Infernape stood no chance against the monstrous Garchomp's earthquake. It was a brutal, humbling experience that taught me Pokémon battles were far more complex than just hitting super effective. We're diving deep into why Cynthia was such a menace, breaking down her entire team, uncovering surprising facts about Garchomp you probably never knew, reliving our shared struggles, and finally, figuring out how we all eventually conquered this immovable challenge. Before we unleash this beast, if you've ever felt the cold dread of Cynthia's Garchomp, smash that like button right now. It helps YouTube know you want more deep dives into Pokemon's greatest challenges. Cynthia's unfair advantage. Cynthia wasn't just any champion, she was a master strategist, a bit of a bully. Her team composition and battle tactics were designed to push players to their absolute limits, exploiting every weakness and punishing every mistake. Her unique, diverse team. Forget everything you knew about Elite Four members having a type. Most champions before her, and many after, specialized in a certain Pokémon type, water or even dragon from Wallace and Lance. Cynthia's team was a meticulously crafted, a type-diverse nightmare, covering a staggering 9 different types across just 6 Pokémon. This wasn't just a battle, it was a pop quiz on the entire type chart, forcing you to think on your feet and adapt constantly. This broad type coverage meant that you couldn't just bring a few Pokémon that were strong against one type and expect to sweep. You needed a truly balanced team, capable of handling a wide array of threats. This design choice by Game Freak was a significant departure from previous champions, making her feel uniquely challenging and requiring a much deeper understanding of type matchups and team synergy. It forced players to move beyond simple type countering and consider their entire team's composition. The Elite Four are a resource drain. Before you even dreamed of facing Cynthia, you had to survive the Elite Four. 4 intense battles back-to-back with no Pokémon Center in sight. You'd battle Aaron, Bertha, Flint, and Lucian, each with their own powerful teams, draining your Pokemon's health, depleting your precious PP, and emptying your bag of healing items. By the time you reached Cynthia's chamber, your Pokemon were battered, your strongest moves had 0 PP, and your bag was probably looking drier than the rivers in Africa. It meant that even if you had a perfectly capable team, you were starting the ultimate battle at a significant disadvantage. Cynthia being the absolute monster. The champion battle against Cynthia had started right when you entered the Elite Four. You had fallen onto her trap right when you entered. The cumulative damage and resource drain from the Elite Four made Cynthia's already formidable team feel even more invincible, contributing to the feeling of being utterly outmatched before the fight even truly began. Her full restore spam, and then the ultimate betrayal. Just when you thought you had her Spiritomb on the ropes, bam, full restore. Melodic looking weak, bam, another full restore. Cynthia wasn't just battling, she was playing mind games. She'd spam those full restores, healing her Pokemon to full health and curing every single status condition. It was like fighting a Hydra. Cut one head off, 2 more grew back. You'd spend turns chipping away at a Pokemon's health, only for her to instantly undo all your hard work. This constant healing was a psychological weapon. It prolonged battles, made every turn feel like a struggle against an endless monster, and created immense frustration. It wasn't just about her Pokemon's raw power, it was about the sheer futility of your efforts when she could simply erase your progress with a single item. This tactic alone was enough to make many players throw their DS across the room, and let's break it down the rest of the gang, because Garchomp wasn't the only problem. Every single Pokemon on Cynthia's team was a threat, designed to wear you down and set the stage for the grand finale. First up, Spiritomb. This ghost/dark type was a nightmare because Generation 4 it had no weaknesses. You couldn't hit it super effectively with anything. It just sat there lowering your special defense with Dark Pulse and Shadow Ball, setting the stage for pain. It was the ultimate wall, forcing you to use up precious PP and take damage before you even got to the real threats. Then there's Milotic, a beautiful but deadly water type. In Diamond and Pearl it had Aqua Ring, slowly healing itself, and Mirror Coat to reflect your powerful special attacks right back at you, often knocking out your strongest special attacker in one hit. In Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, she even gives it a Flame Orb to activate its Marvel Scale ability, which boosts its already impressive defense by a staggering 50% when burned. It could tank hits and dish out Scald, which could burn your physical attackers. Lucario, the fighting and steel powerhouse, came next. Its Aura Sphere and Shockwave, they never miss. Ever. So don't even think about trying to boost your evasion against this guy. He'll just bypass it and hit you with super effective damage against rock, ice, steel, and normal types. It was fast, hit hard, and had coverage for many common types. Next up, Roserade, fast, and packing a punch with Sludge Bomb, a powerful poison-type move that gets a stab and can poison you. It also had Energy Ball for water, rock, and ground types. And finally, Gastrodon, a water-ground type that's only 4 times weak to Grass, but otherwise a bulky annoyance with Earthquake and Scald, hitting hard, and taking hits surprisingly well. Each of these Pokémon drained your resources and forced specific counter-strategies, building the tension linearly towards the ultimate showdown, the monstrous ace, Garchomp the Tyrant. Everyone wanted a glazing video on Garchomp, so here it is. Alright, let's talk about the main event and the reason we're all here, the Pokémon that still haunts our dreams, Garchomp. This isn't just any dragon/ground type. This is a pseudo-legendary with stats that put most actual legendaries to shame. We're talking a base stat total of 600. That's insane for a non-legendary, placing it among the most powerful Pokémon in the game. Let's break down those numbers because they tell the real story of why this Landshark was so terrifying. We're talking 108 horsepower, a monstrous 130 attack, a solid 95 defense, and a blazing 102 speed. This thing hits like a truck, moves like a jet plane, and can take a hit too, and it's built for pure destruction. Its high attack and speed means it can often outspeed your Pokémon and deliver devastating blows before you even get a chance to react. The high HP and decent defenses allow it to survive hits that would knock out lesser Pokémon. This combination of offensive and defensive power is why it felt like an unstoppable force. In Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, Garchomp was already a nightmare with Stab Earthquake, a devastating ground-type move that hits everything on the ground, and Dragon Rush, a powerful dragon-type move that could even make you flinch. Plus, it knew Giga Impact, an extremely powerful and normal-type move that was the physical variant of Hyper Beam. While it needed a turn to recharge, often that one hit was all it needed to wipe out one of your Pokémon. But then came Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, and Game Freak said, you know what? Let's make it worse. In BDSP, Cynthia's Garchomp got a new trick, Swords Dance. This move raises Garchomp's attack stat by 2 stages in a single turn. Imagine a Pokémon that already hits like a train, now hitting like 2 f***ing trains after just one turn. After one Swords Dance, it could one-shot almost anything you threw at it, regardless of type effectiveness. The trauma was reawakened, amplified for a new generation of players. And for those of us replaying, it was a cruel reminder of the past, now made even more challenging. This single addition elevated an already infamous opponent to legendary status, making the remakes potentially even harder in this specific encounter. Now you might be thinking, Garchomp is 4 times weak to ice. I'll just bring an ice type and one-shot it. And you'd be right, mostly. But Cynthia, being the strategic genius she is, gave her Garchomp a little secret weapon in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, the Yatra Berry. This berry halves the damage to hit a super effective ice-type attack once, so your perfectly planned Ice Beam or Ice Shard might not be the instant KO you hoped for, leaving Garchomp alive to retaliate with a boosted Earthquake or Dragon Claw. This meant that your most obvious counter strategy, the one you probably spent hours training for, was partially negated. You expected a clean one-hit knockout, but instead, Garchomp survived with enough health to unleash a devastating counterattack, often wiping out your Ice-type Pokémon. This unexpected resilience added another layer of frustration and contributed to the feeling that Cynthia was always one step ahead. We haven't even started talking about Garchomp's ability. In Generation 4, Garchomp's only ability was Sand Veil, which boosts its evasion by 25% in a sandstorm. Sounds terrifying, right? Evasion boosts on a monster like Garchomp? Imagine trying to hit a Pokémon that's already fast and strong, and now it's dodging your attacks left and right. But here's the kicker. Cynthia's team never had a Pokémon that could set up a sandstorm. Not in Diamond, Pearl, Platinum, or even Gen 5. So all those times you swore Garchomp dodged your attacks because of Sand Veil, it was all in your head. The trauma was so real we imagined it was even more unfair than it actually was, so essentially Garchomp without any ability was plowing our teams. This common misconception among players truly highlights the psychological impact of the battle. We were so overwhelmed by Garchomp's raw power and speed that our brains filled in the blanks, perceiving it as an even greater threat than its mechanics actually allowed. It's a testament to how deeply this battle affected us. If these Garchomp nightmares are hitting too close to home, let me know your most traumatic Cynthia story in the comments below. Did you manage to one-shot Garchomp, or did it take you a dozen tries and a small army of full restores? Let me know your pain in the comments so that we can all feel at home. Facing Cynthia and Garchomp felt impossible, but eventually we all found ways to overcome the challenge. And it wasn't easy. The first most painful truth, you probably went in underleveled. Cynthia's Garchomp sits at a whopping level 66 in the first battle, while the Elite Four's starting Pokemon are often in the late 40s. That's a huge jump. Many of us, myself included, had to go back to the drawing board, hit the Grand Underground, and grind for hours to get our teams into the high 50s or low 60s. It wasn't fun, but it was absolutely necessary. The level disparity between the Elite Four and Cynthia was a deliberate design choice that forced players to invest significant time and effort into leveling up their teams. This wasn't just about raw power, it was about ensuring your Pokemon could withstand Garchomp's attacks and deal enough damage to overcome its defenses, and the Yachi Berry. This fundamental shift in strategy, from simply progressing through the story to dedicated grinding, highlighted the sheer magnitude of the challenge. Remember how Cynthia spammed full restores? Well, you too can play that game. You might have felt like a bitch using them, but guess what? Cynthia herself uses items on all of her Pokemon. Her Melodic even has a Flame Orb to boost its defense, so stock up on those full restores, max revives, and even some leftovers or berries from the Grand Underground. This isn't a fair fight, and you need every advantage. Learning to strategically use healing items and held items became a crucial part of the problem-solution arc. Players realized that to beat a champion who played by her own rules, they had to adapt and use every tool at their disposal. This changed the perception of item usage from a cheat to a necessary strategy, a valuable lesson learned through the repeated defeats and the eventual win. But beyond grinding in items, true victory came from smart-type matchups and strategic Pokemon choices. Understanding weaknesses and resistances was key to dismantling Cynthia's diverse team. Garchomp's 4X weakness to ice was its kryptonite. Pokemon like Mamoswine with its priority Ice Shard could often one-shot Garchomp, even if underleveled, because Ice Shard attacks first. Weevil, faster than Garchomp, could land a devastating Ice Punch or Avalanche. These Ice-type heroes were often the key to taking down the terrifying dragon. Fairy types, the Dragon Slayers, BDSP only. In Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, the introduction of the Fairy type was a game-changer. Fairy moves are super effective against Garchomp, and even better, Dragon-type moves have no effect on Fairy types. Togekiss, with its Dazzling Gleam or Moonblast, became an absolute unit, resisting Garchomp's attacks while dishing out massive damage. They also helped with Spiritomb, as Fairy is its only weakness. Other MVPs, Swampert with Ice Punch could tank hits and retaliate, and Gyarados' Intimidate ability could lower Garchomp's attack, giving you a crucial turn. Even a well-timed switch into a Ghost type like Drifblim could bait Garchomp's Earthquake, which wouldn't hit Ghost types, allowing for a strategic counterattack or a free switch. These specific strategies, often shared and refined by the community, provided concrete pathways to victory. Cynthia's Pokemon, Spiritomb being Ghost/Dark, Togekiss being Fairy Flying, Roserade Grass/Poison, Gastrodon Water/Ground, Lucario Fighting /Steel, Milotic Water type, Garchomp Dragon/Ground, the You Can Say No to Cynthia, Secret Gen 5 Edition. And for those of you who just couldn't take it anymore, who needed a moment to breathe, did you know in the Undella Townhouse in Generation 5, when Cynthia asks if you want to battle, you can actually say no? That's right! You don't have to face the trauma once again. You can literally just walk away. Though let's be honest, who even said no? The challenge was too alluring, even if it meant certain doom. This obscure fact highlights the player's intrinsic drive to overcome challenges, even when given an easy out. It adds a meta layer to the trauma, by showing that despite the pain, we chose to endure it, driven by the desire to prove ourselves. So Cynthia and Garchomp battle wasn't just a roadblock, it was a masterclass. It taught us about team building, type matchups, item management, and the sheer grit required to be a champion. It forced us to evolve as trainers, Much like our Pokémon had to evolve to stand a chance, Cynthia didn't just traumatize us, she forged us into stronger, smarter players, capable of tackling any challenge the Pokémon world threw our way. The problem of her overwhelming power led to the solution of strategic mastery, making us better trainers in the process. If you could relate with this video, then you might relate to this one as well.